Surprise when we show up for this once a season oval event. Let's strap in as we get ready to watch round 6 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. With what I assume is lots of road racing fans watching, you might not know as much about Charlotte. Let's head to our track guide to learn more.
Welcome everybody to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Even though it was built more than 4 decades ago, drivers still love to race at this 1.5-mile quad-shaped oval. Located just a short 13-mile drive from downtown, Charlotte also shares a similar track shape to what you would see at the Texas Motor Speedway and the Atlanta Motor Speedway as well. Despite turns 1 and 2 having the same banking as turns 3 and 4, the two ends of the speedway could not drive any different. Turn 1 and 2 are much more of a sweeping corner, really carrying the speed down into the corner and trying to get that hole shot out of turn 2 down the backstretch. Turns 3 and 4 drive much tighter than 1 and 2, really having to get the car to rotate in the middle of 3 and 4 to make your entry and your exit point. Getting a lap in around here in one piece usually requires some calm nerves and a patient foot. Charlotte was one of the first speedways to install lights around the facility, giving night racing a whole new berth. Charlotte is also known for its place in the perfect day of racing every Memorial Day, acting as the caboose after the Monaco Grand Prix and the Indianapolis 500. If Daytona is the pinnacle of NASCAR racing, then Charlotte has to be just a bumper behind. Fans flock to the largest sports facility in the Southeast and NASCAR's home track. This has been our guide to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Sit back and enjoy the show.
So there you see a little bit about this place, but Joey, this is going to be an interesting one because it's the first time that the Lotus 49s have come to Charlotte.
Yeah, an interesting combination of a newer 1.5-mile oval with these old school cars. Will be interesting to see how they race side by side, if they use multiple lanes here at Charlotte, or if it's going to be more of a one-lane racetrack. I have heard from competitors, though, that lap traffic will be an issue out there, so we'll have to keep an eye on everything once it gets going kind of into the middle of today's race.
Indeed, and well, this race does count towards the championship as well, and it's basically been the Mick Claridge show for much of the season so far, having taken 3 out of the 5 wins for this season. He's ahead of Sebastian Tixier by a few points, but Tixier's been keeping him honest and managed to take the win back at Sandown when Mick didn't show up. But Jorge Nieva has been fascinating because he's been very consistent. He's still in the 3rd spot there in the F1 points, but has not won a race yet this season. Has been on the podium, though. Xavier Sanchez is down there in the 4th spot and has been keeping consistent as well, but is still looking for his first win. It's pretty tight between Bill Tyler, Neil Kemp, and David Rossi, so that should be fascinating. And then you get down to Olsen, Plumley, and Wilson to round out your top 10 in the F1 standings. What about the F2 here, Joey?
Actually have a really good battle on our hands throughout the top 10 here, but leading the way is Don Peak with 134 points. But check this out. Glenn Becker only 2 points behind here in this Formula 2 championship. And then the battle for 3rd place between Andrew Eng, Timothy Porter, and Jan Steffen. Well, let's include Doug Nelson and also Jeff Saunders. They're only separated by 2 points, all 6 of those drivers. We'll have to see how today plays out, as I do see quite a few of these names from the Formula 2 Championship, and you got to remember, it's only separated by iRating. All these drivers are still incredibly fast out there.
Absolutely, and there are no splits today, so this is everybody who signed up for this one. The Cup of Nations has the UK leading the United States and Spain by 8 points. Singapore slipping down to fourth with the consistency that we've seen from the US and Spain so far. Australia a little bit behind. You get a bit of a jump there, and same thing with Finland before it finally tightens up again between Germany and Denmark, seeing potential changes of position there. But kind of a runaway there for those top three. And we'll see if that stays that way for this season as we've hit the halfway point, which brings us, of course, to the race details.
It is round 6 of 12 here today at the Charlotte Oval. The competitors are going to be doing 65 laps, and everybody has been tweaking and tuning their own setup. Be crucial out here because this is pretty heavily banked oval. You're going to need to be able to manage those tires throughout today. No spare cars, so you got to be careful of that wall. Drive-through penalty at 17x and disqualification at 25. Joe, I don't think we're going to see incident limit come into play here today.
Nope. It is no caution flags for this one, so expect the drivers who have problems to have big problems and not be able to get back into it. We do have some interesting names, not just because it's an oval, which is a little unusual for the series, but not completely out of the realm, but also because it is the exact same time that we're starting the Daytona 24 here on iRacing. So there are a lot of drivers that we expect to be missing. Interestingly, it's Bill Tyler up on the provisional pole, and then a name I don't think we've seen before, Shunsuke Tashima is up there. We may have had him, I think, possibly when we went to Motegi not long ago, and Wade Sheedy there in third. Looks like, qualifying is in fact over. So let's go through that starting order. You've got Sebastian Tixier starting in fourth, and then Jorge Nieva with an excellent qualifying in P5. John Olsen starts sixth today, but Mick Claridge only seventh. He usually actually fares pretty well here on oval, so a bit surprising to see him down in P7. Neil Kemp will start eighth with Kevin DeBello, another new name starting from ninth. Farron Grau, good enough for a top 10 start today.
In the 11th spot, we have Glenn Becker. Laust Olsen, one of our cams today, in 12th position. Robert Plumley in 13th spot. Mark Antonio Salgado there in 14th. Michael Grissinger rounding out the top 15. Ove Trengrade in the 16th spot. Bruce Snelson. Gwen Old. Christian Eschner. And then Rolly Wallbank in the 20th position.
David Rossi starts 21st, Brad Cathcart in the 22nd spot. Then you go to Jeff Saunders in P23. He'll have Ackerman to his outside. Traumahauser will be in 25th at the green flag, followed by Paul Wilson in 26th and Maxime Le Breton in the 27th spot. Tobias Harnvey starts P28. Then we've got Tim Porter in the 29th spot, and Don Peake starts up from 30th.
Jan Steffen here in 31st position. Heiko Mueller, 32nd. Robert Nelson, 33rd. Amy Charmois, 34th. Marcus Hartig there in 35th position. Kurt Clapper, Jack Spickett, Robert Reynolds, Gary Ho, Isan Jin, then just a couple more here. Andres Bruno, Mats Linden, and Andrew Eng round out the 43 cars that are going to be taken to the Charlotte Oval.
It's appropriate since that used to be the number that showed up for most stock car races in NASCAR. 43 filling out the field here today. We wait for the pace car to take off on the pace lap, and it is relatively cool with it being kind of late in the day as well. So it's almost, early in the day. This is a morning race? That's interesting. I just noticed that's 7 a.m., not 7 p.m., so we will potentially warm up just a little bit. Interesting twist on things. Not sure how many 7 a.m. races this track has actually seen.
It's funny you mention that because in the real world, a lot of times there's sound ordinances that come into play, and the neighbors don't like to be woken up too early.
Yes, absolutely. Well, The drivers don't have to worry about those sorts of things here as we're waiting for the pace car to lead them away. There it goes with its magic front wheels able to slide off to the side. And our onboard cams, Laust Olsen, the only one that we've got here this morning. And already the pucker factor, even before we get to the green flag, looks like it is out. So maybe a few nerves for the Scandinavian driver awaiting what is to befall everybody once we get up to speed.
Well, I'm going to keep my eye right around Laust Olsen in the middle of the pack because he qualified 12th. He's going to be in the thick of it. And when these cars take to NASCAR turn 1 and turn 2 for the first time, I'm going to be interested to see how much they spread out or how much they go single file.
All right. They're on the back stretch, and they only get one pace lap at this track, so we're going racing right away. 65, no full course yellows. You have to try and get to the end, so it's going to be about minimizing mistakes, staying with the leaders, and probably won't be as much of a draft fest as we've seen at places such as Daytona or Indianapolis, where you see them back and forth all the time. Still, it'll be keeping drivers in touch with one another. It's going to be a tricky one. The iRacing pace car is in. Bill Tyler has control of the field. And there's the starts. He went before the start zone. I'm curious to see if that will get him a black flag. I don't see one next to his name, but it looks like it is clean up at the front of the field. Looking back from him at the rest of them, I'm not seeing any incidents down into turn 1, so that's good news so far. Oh, but we have a big wreck out of turn 2, and Mick Claridge is actually stuck in the fence.
Yeah, there's several cars involved with this. I see Gwen Old, Mick Claridge, Ove Trengrade is involved as well. Quite a few of the regular front runners not going to have a good points day.
Oh, that is a real shame to see. I didn't see what started it, though. Looks like we got a replay here. Oh, and already the 17 in there, that is John Olsen. So he was obviously an early person involved in that one. Ooh, that was some net code, it looked like to me. Oh, that's
the
Claridge.
16 is Tixier.
Oh, my goodness. Tixier and Claridge are 2 championship leaders taken out on the first lap.
And the 17 there was John Olsen. You got Ove Trengrade involved in that. Tons of front runners and very fast cars.
Wow, yeah. That's, there you see the number 1 out there as well. Oh, wow. Gwen Old has quite a bit of oval I rating. That's not something that I realized. So, man, that is frightening if you're in the back seeing cars flying around. Meanwhile, up at the front, Sheedy is now ahead of Bill Tyler, and Tashima is just slotting in beneath him. So Bill's going to move back into P3. Looks like he's not too concerned about track position. This is not something that we bring up as much on road racing, but on oval you hear it a lot, Joey. There's some give and take involved.
You have to be quite careful with the corner entries and exits. It's easy to let the car drift up wide, and you just have to be conscious of cars all around you and leave them a lane to race, because you'll find that if you don't leave somebody a lane to race, they're not going to leave you that same room back when you need it.
Yep, and these are open wheelers. They're not stock cars, so you kind of need that little bit of leeway, because if you tangle wheels, well, we already saw what happens when they come together. As Tashima is still trying on the high side. It hasn't gotten him the position yet. He's got to be careful. Bill Tyler could get his nose in there underneath him.
Well, and I'm seeing this throughout the field here. Look at how loose these cars are on entry, and they're doing over 160 miles an hour, Joe, when they're entering turn 1 or turn 3. Got to be a handful to try to trust that thing in getting the grip on the banking.
I'm seeing some more cars suddenly towing into pit lane. Porter and LeBreton, unfortunately, are in there. We've lost almost 10, it looks like, that are taking repairs, might find themselves back out on track a little later. Tashima up on the high side, actually kind of making it work as the track rubbers in. And down low, Sheedy's really having to defend here. Tyler's backed off slightly, kind of giving them some space. Really loving ripping that middle lane. It looks like the number 3 is not doing too bad up there.
I think that as long as he's confident, I'm actually surprised that it's not bringing more momentum down the straightaways, Joe. Typically in the stock cars, we see if you can run the high line, you get to carry the top speed, but I don't quite see that out of this car right now.
No, it doesn't seem like it. Wonder if it just hasn't put enough grip down, enough rubber down on that high side. But man, Sheedy's really covering the bottom every single corner, making sure that Tsushima can't fully take advantage of the speed. Tyler and Nieva are back behind them, and then you finally get a gap from 4th. DeBello has moved up into P5, but has to make up about 2 seconds to catch them. Tsushima with a huge run, gets a nose ahead briefly, but the longer line around still isn't paying dividends. Now, though, he stays side by side down the backstretch. This could be the one that does it. Let's see if he chucks it in far enough. No, he can't do it.
He has to be so brave on entry up there. You see the car wiggle around, and I think that might be where he's making the speed, but I tell you what, it's dancing on the limit every time.
He's got to be so careful here. Doesn't want to throw this race away as we hop on board, watching him fly through 1 and 2. And again, these speeds are around 170 miles an hour around the corners. They're getting up to 190 down the back straightaway there. Yeah, minimum speed 160 there for Tsushima down through turns 3 and 4. And this is in 1960s technology.
I love this onboard shot because you see him, like you said, Joe, really ripping the high side. He's just staying totally on the top half of the racetrack. You see the middle groove in that seam there, and he's just barely dipping the left side tires over it and then carrying the momentum down the straightaway.
They've been side by side for some time now, just unwilling to give way. But Sheedy's held that top spot pretty much the entire time, other than the nose of Shunsuke just kind of poking ahead briefly. So as long as Wade is ahead at the checkered flag, that's all he's really concerned about. I'm sure he's willing to let Tsushima stay out there as long as things stay as they are. But we're only on lap 12, and there he goes, finally back in line behind the gearbox of the number 12.
Yeah, but Joe, do you see what I see on the horizon? Our first lapped car. Gonna have to keep an eye on how all of the racers navigate this.
And I wonder if that's what moved Tsushima down to the bottom. He saw that coming and thought, okay, let's get in line. Let's deal with this until we get some clear air, and then we'll try and do that again later. We go back to Laust Olsen, who's been fighting with DeBello, but now Farron Grau has gotten underneath him and demoted him to 7th. Grau up to P6.
This has been a really good battle. Laust Olsen actually caught the back of Kevin DeBello and has just been trying to make the move. But Joe, you mentioned it earlier, these are open wheel cars. You have to be so careful when making the pass, and these cars tend to move around a lot underneath these racers.
Yeah, these were not built for oval racing, so that's why we're seeing maybe things look a little unusual. I'm sure there's been a lot of sets and advice shared between the drivers on where they should, what they should do with what out there to try and make them drive better. I wonder if we should go back to Tsushima here, because he was getting very far ahead on the backstretch on Sheedy, but it still can't make it stick. Oh my God, it's so close at the line between them now. It was just 0.03 of a second. It's starting to look that upper line is actually coming in a bit.
Yeah, and I'm just curious to see if Tsushima can clear Sheedy, which he almost is here in turn 3. If he can take that lower line, Joe, I'm curious to see the outright pace that he has.
Wouldn't be the first Japanese driver here in the Grand Prix Legend Series to get a win on the oval side. We've seen some other greats show up. Not sure why. They really love getting in these old cars and hopping onto the ovals, because we don't see Tsushima regularly during the road races here in the Grand Prix Legends. Now he's starting consistently to be ahead of the nose of Wade Sheedy. Once he gets fully clear, you got to think he's going to chop down.
I think you have to, Joe. You've battled how many laps here side by side, and if you even get that one clear sign from the spotter, you have to take advantage.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating battle, not something we'd get to see usually in this series. And they're going to have to really have their wits about them. Somebody had wrecked on the bottom on the backstretch there. We have had a few others, but we just haven't been reporting on them because this has been such an intense fight up at the front.
And I tell you what, this front pack of 4, okay, because Jorge Nieva joined the party a few laps ago, but they're going to have more company in the form of Farron Grau, Laust Olsen, and Kevin DeBello, because all 3 of these cars are turning laps faster than the leaders.
Togo Hisada was the other Japanese driver that managed to take a win here on the ovals. That was at Indianapolis that he actually had his first win of the Grand Prix Legends Series. This should be the first broadcast win for Tashima, I'm pretty certain, if he can somehow pry that top spot away as we come back to Nieva. Another driver could be looking at his first win. You never know. Those top 3 cars could all tangle and he could just cruise on by.
Yo, Farron Grau over 0.2 of a second faster than our leader, and that is a huge margin on this oval. Look at how quickly this pack of 3 has hunted down our leaders, and here comes Laust Olsen as Grau makes a mistake out of turn 4.
Yep, Olsen down to the inside, and that's going to move him into P5. Interestingly, they're not that far behind. In fact, I'm pretty sure they've gained a lot of time on the leaders. So down to 0.7 of a second. Yeah, there you see just how fast they are coming up.
Yeah, and Kevin DeBello actually 30.4 that last lap. That's over 0.3 faster than our leader. So yeah, Joe, this is going to be a pack of 7 to battle for our lead here in just a couple laps.
So definitely still a draft race, just a very different beast than what we've experienced on the ovals before for these guys. Is a lot of wrecks down low that once again they're trying to just keep out of. There's so many perils out at this circuit as they are now coming up to Andrew Ang and getting ready to lap a few more cars. This will have to be taken with a lot of care, but it looks like the drivers are aware of the situation. Ang's just going to try and stay up high out of their way.
Well, and he's doing the right thing, but it's not always that easy. A lot of times going into these corners, they need to... Oh, wow, trouble on the front straightaway here. I think Michael Grissinger and Salgado was involved. I'm also seeing Don Peak maybe with an incident out there, maybe just dropped a few incidents, and get a quick replay here.
Yeah, Salgado's slow out of 4, and as soon as they tangled wheels, they had both lost control, and there are no small wrecks at this track.
You see, thank gosh that this the virtual world, because you see how dangerous these cars could be.
Yeah, this is why we don't have retro races for old school open wheelers, unfortunately. You talked about Don Peak. He's actually in 20th, so he's still going. I think he's managed to stay out of trouble up till now. He's up 10 positions. Calling on him because, well, he's leading the amateur points right now, the F2 points. So this could be a good day, or it could all unravel for him. We'll have to wait and see.
I've been watching this pack, and as they make their way through the meat and potatoes of this race or the field, it's going to get more and more difficult to pass these lap cars. And guess what? This train has grown from 4 to 7, and it's about to be 8 because Glenn Becker is also doing laps faster than the leaders right now.
I wonder if all that fighting between Sheedy and Tashima is what's kind of backing them up here, or if the draft really is that powerful because they're coming from so far behind. I can't believe they're catching him, and now it's really become a snake. Look at that angle as we look down the backstretch. Really shows you how they're all kind of jockeying to position themselves.
I think it also plays into what we saw earlier with the side-by-side racing, in that it's tough to carry the momentum by a competitor. You might be able to drive up next to him, but oh no, I think there was hard contact. Was that Grau in the wall?
And Olsen caught it, but yes, it was Grau who I think initially got into there. Laust, unfortunately, just clattered up against the safer barrier. So watch the blue car in front of Olsen here. Clips it right there. Just, it's so embarrassingly easy to just drift a little wide through that quad oval.
And I was going to mention it, the lapped cars, they don't do anything wrong, but picture if a lapped car was there and these drivers had to pinch that entry even more. It's difficult in these cars.
Well, it was 7. Now it's down to 5. Becker's still trying to play catch up. Grau has headed into the pits. Olsen had to take a tow. He could not go anywhere from there. We are down to 24 cars still running. I think Harnvee's gotten back out on the track and Reynolds, so a few more have repaired and managed to get back out, but they're multiple laps down. They're just trying to gather up whatever safety rating they can, maybe pick off those positions of those who are still sitting in pit lane.
And we talked about this train and trying to see if it was more of a draft train or what was going on, but I'm actually seeing a few of these throughout the field. Because it looks like David Rossi has a train behind him of Christian Eschner, Paul Wilson, Rolly Wallbank, Jeff Saunders. So I think this is a little bit of how these cars race on this oval.
Rossi's 7th in the points, so yeah, he probably would like to stay at the front of that train, but he's down in 10th currently, so he's got some work to do from there. Meanwhile, Sheedy, Tashima, Tyler, Nieva, DeBello, there's your top 5 train. Becker is now actually, I think, dropping off. He's up to about 1.8 seconds, so he's lost a little speed. Maybe with them calming down, that's helped it out. Up on the high side of the lap traffic, Sheedy looks like he finds his way successfully around the car of Isan Gin. He may have had problems, but he hasn't had the serious problems that we've seen. Gin just being lapped on pace.
You see, great job staying low on the racetrack, but this is what I was talking about. As the leaders make their way further and further up the field, the drivers get faster and faster, and they don't want to relinquish that track position. And it's going to be something that the leaders are going to have to navigate all race.
Yeah, they don't want to give up momentum for sure and be caught by whoever they're trying to run away from behind. And with no yellow flags, while there isn't an impetus to try and stay on the lead lap, there is the trying not to lift where you don't need to, as the drivers will want to keep their position. Somebody's smoking there at the bottom of turns 3 and 4. Didn't quite catch who it was. Still our top 5 plugged together, and we are just at the halfway point as Grissinger returns to the track, the latest to be able to repair his car and get on again.
Looks like these leaders are going to come into the first pair of cars fighting. They're actually side by side into 3 right now. They've only approached single cars at a time, and now we've got 2 that are battling on the racetrack.
Oh, the good news is that's Harnvee, actually. So he's not fighting for position with the car ahead of him. Didn't quite make out who that was. Trying to find them. It's Cathcart there. So Cathcart is on the lead lap and now going to be put a lap down once Sheedy goes by him. But it's interesting to see that Tashima hasn't been as fierce about trying to fight with that number 12. I wonder if I'm very curious if him backing off is because of that lap traffic, or if he's just kind of regrouping, waiting for later in the race to try again and see if he can catch him more by surprise. Well, here we go right here. He's going to send it up around the outside. Maybe he's listening to me right now and figured that's the hurry up and go.
I think you're spot on, Joe, that he was being patient. You look in front of him now. They got clean racetrack so they can go racing, and that's exactly what Tashima's doing. He's really pushing these entries on the high side, and I feel like if he's able to clear Sheedy and take away that low line, we've got a different race on our hands.
Certainly. And Bill Tyler is still kind of hovering there in 3rd place. He's managed to get back ahead of Nieva here and just kind of giving watch. Ooh, did Sheedy touch underneath the apron there? It looked like a bobble.
It was very close, but they're flirting with that white line the entire time, just the same way Tashima is flirting with this yaw angle so far up on the racetrack. They're both really neck and neck coming off of turn 4.
Yeah, Sheedy very shallow that time. This has been incredible stuff between the pair of them, and fair racing between the pair. I haven't seen anything untowards up to now between them. They've been giving each other space, making sure they can get to the finish. They both know they're fast, but it's who can finally take that lead away. And so far, Sheedy has held the high ground, but the high line for Tashima, just about getting him fully ahead for a brief moment as we watch from the onboard of Bill Tyler.
This is a great onboard. Bill Tyler just picking which lane you can do because he's got Sheedy down low, Tashima up high, and he's just kind of sitting at the buffet table. And it's so interesting to see, Joe. Sheedy was just barely clear of Tashima coming out of 2, but Tashima seems really strong going into 3.
It was 1/1000th of a second between them at the line, and Tashima was actually ahead that time. That's bad news for Wade Sheedy. He's no longer beating him across the start-finish line. We could have it wind up as a dash to the finish between the pair of them. And let's hope that does not come to blows, because I'm sure they're going to try and wring every last little mile an hour out of these two machines all the way to the end. And we are past that halfway point. Oh, man, it's getting better and better for Tashima. He's been just rubbering in that outside line time after time. Don't count out Kevin DeBello and Jorge Nieva, though. They're still there, but they have absolutely dropped Glenn Becker. He's now 4 seconds behind this lead pack.
And look at the lap count. We're officially past halfway, and I can't believe how many laps these two have gone side by side. And just as I think Tashima has the advantage and is going to take it away, Sheedy gets a great run down low and swoops away that low line just as he does here again.
He's got this pretty well figured out. And Bill Tyler now side by side with Nieva, who has suddenly felt a little bit of urgency to maybe try and get involved himself, but can't make it stick. So he goes back into a straight line amongst them. What can they do differently? What have they been learning on these investigations, trying different things?
My only comment right now is Tashima's setting this up. If he keeps playing this card just how he is, this high line the whole race, and is able to hang in there, he's going to be able to pull the old Cole trickle, because he's going to think he's going to go high and he's going to make an over-under.
All right, quite a throwback there, but I definitely get the reference. And, well, it looks like he's still just content to sit behind as he doesn't try and attempt this time around the outside. Bill Tyler, though, is right behind him. If he tries that over-under, he's got to be careful, because if he cuts down and Tyler's there, that could be disastrous.
And you bring up a great point, because look at the 13 machine. He's starting to get more aggressive, and we got to remember, Bill Tyler was our pole sitter. There's plenty of speed in his car.
Indeed. Ooh, a big checkup amongst them. I thought maybe Nieva was going to try the high line there, as he had so much speed over Tyler, but he stays low. Most of them seem to be happy now to be on the bottom side between them. Still have 23 drivers out there racing. No, more than that. Looks like 17 are on the lead lap. So I think they're coming upon less and less of that traffic, more smoke from somebody having problems. We've had a number of retirees. Officially, Bruno, Trangrade, Claridge, Olsen, Porter, LeBreton, Salgado, and Ho are out of this race. More are still sitting in pit lane, and there's what I was talking about, where Tyler just about got underneath Tashima. That hurt him, though. Nieva's now looking at trying to overtake Bill Tyler, and Tashima goes at it again.
Things are 2-by-2 up front through fourth place. Tashima and Sheedy and Nieva and Tyler side by side there for what is the third place. And I think Tashima might be able to clear Sheedy for the lead.
Well, Nieva got clear of Tyler. He used the slipstream of Shunsuke to try and get by him. Maybe that's what Tashima needs here. I wonder if lap traffic ahead of him taking the high side would give him just enough slipstream to be able to complete the pass.
And it's just what I saw. It's like deja vu, Joe. As soon as Tashima, I think he's got it clear, Sheedy battles back.
Lap 45 now. As they cross the line, it's going to be 20 to go. And Tashima's starting to make better and better inroads. Let's see who's going to be first across the line this time. Tashima was first last lap. And this time across, it is again Shunsuke Tashima that has led the way. Sheedy's got to get a little nervous at this point. Well, he doesn't need to get nervous. He needs to get smart, I think, if anything, because now he might not win this race, and it might only be by a couple thousandths of a second.
Seeing multiple lapped cars that they're going to be approaching here in the next handful of laps. Something else the competitors are going to have to navigate. We've seen Tashima tuck in single file when they approach traffic. See if he approaches it the same way.
Yeah, up ahead, they've got Mats Linden, who's already a lap down, so he's been lapped once. He knows how to deal with them at this point, but where is he going to place the car? Tashima off the corner, ducking low briefly, then back into a straight line, and they're not going to catch Mats quite yet, it looks like. They still need a little bit more to go. Oh, we've had a massive wreck up ahead of them. Holy cow. So thankfully, it looks like, okay, the track is going to clear just in time. I was worried that this was actually going to affect the leaders. So here is Wilson, and it starts in front of him. Two cars, once again, looks like they just made some sort of contact. And then the 37, which is Rolly Wallbank, just kind of drifts up into him.
Do you see when things happen on the oval, there's not much place to go. Everything tends to wash upwards first and then come back down the racetrack. It's tough to navigate.
Yeah, it's steep enough that it's self-cleaning, but it needs time for the gravity to do its thing. And that's taken out even more cars now, down to somewhere around 22 cars or so that are still on the racetrack right now. It's been gobbling them up. And we're back to some side-by-side racing, but this time with lapped cars. As Shidi, Tashima, Nieva go by. I think a little bit of a clip of the wall there for Robert Reynolds, back row Bob, trying not to interrupt them, but also trying to keep from wrecking himself.
Now, I've heard of Front Row Joe before, but I haven't heard of that other one. We'll have to check in on that.
That's his nickname in the series. He likes it. He goes by Back Row Bob. He almost always starts from the back of the field, gets lapped, but he's been a staple here for many years in Lotus 49. Well-respected guy, because he's usually very clean with letting the leaders through.
Tell you what, Nieva is taking a look down the inside of Tashima, and Tashima sent it off there into turn one, and we're going to have a battle down the back street. I think Nieva's going to think better of it, though, and try to catch the leader.
Yeah, thought for a second that maybe Jorge was going to sneak into second place, but Tashima maybe trying a little too hard into some of these turns. Now on to lap 52 of this race, and they've caught right back up to Shidi very quickly.
And we talked about it early at the beginning. This slipstream effect is big. And it also just has to be with keeping the momentum on the bottom side of the racetrack. It seems like the top side you can drive, but it's tough to pass.
Yeah, but I like this. I like that it's not impossible, but it's certainly a bit tricky to try and get it done. Makes drivers work for it. And another car stopped at the bottom there. Didn't see who that was, but they took a tow. Robert Plumley, I think, who had some sort of incident on the quad oval.
And Robert Plumley was running inside the top 10 here. We're getting this replay. You just see, yeah, when something happens in front of you, you don't have much place to go, and he was just collected.
That's been the case for so many drivers out there today. We are down to only 9 left on the lead lap. Drivers are really finding themselves having a difficult time. In fact, make that 8 now. Kurt Clapper just got lapped himself. There you see him underneath our top 5, and it is still the 5 that are leading, with Glenn Becker now kind of stopping the distance. It hasn't gone higher than 5 seconds back, so he's not losing more, but he's also not within contention unless all 5 of those drivers get taken out. 11 to go now as they cross the line. It's coming down to the end of it. What does Tashima have up his sleeve?
Well, and we've got clear racetrack. That means Tashima's going to be trying the high side again. He immediately moves up top here in turns 1 and 2, starts battling again. And look at this. I wonder if Nieva's going to try to go up there and maybe give a little bit of an aerodynamic push. I know you can't bump draft in these cars, but the closer you are, the more aerodynamic your train is and can go faster.
That's a good thought. I hadn't considered that on this one. It's so different from what we've seen with stock car racing here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's certainly its own beast today, and I'm sure these drivers are learning as much as we are how to play the game today. 10 laps to go, and a big gain from Nieva. In fact, I think that double hole being punched in there for Nieva, if he can find a way to make it 3 wide, he could maybe get both of them, but that's going to be extremely dangerous. That might be a sort of last lap call from him.
I agree, and he wants to do it. His eyes are looking big right now, but we've seen battling 2 wide on this racetrack. You see how much the cars move around. I can't imagine 3 wide. Nieva's going to have one heck of a run to do it.
He's getting, look at the momentum that he gets. It's a whole head of steam, but he just can't find a wide enough opening by the time they reach the corner to try and get in there. He'll have to be brave, and it's going to be Hero Zero stuff where they could all 3 wind up in the wall, or he winds up taking a shock victory, his first victory here today. Wade Sheedy, I don't think has had one. In fact, so yeah, I'm pretty sure the top 3 have never had a win in the Grand Prix Legends Series.
Well, it's going to be checkers or wreckers, I feel, for some of this group up here. And let's hope it doesn't end in tears, because this has been a fantastic race that these 5 have kept together for almost 65 laps now.
If I'm seeing right, Sheedy's never had a podium even. So yeah, this is going to be a big day for him. And down to 7 laps to go as they work their way around 1 and 2. We've already seen Tashima get to the finish line before Wade a couple times. Could he deny him just by beating him off of turn 4 through the quad oval and to the finish? Let's see here. Yeah, look at that great exit for him. He's definitely ahead as they go by the lap traffic, but not by the finish line that time. He fell back a little bit, maybe because of that lap traffic. Nieva now trying to get underneath him.
I'm trying to see which lane is going to go through, Joe, and you're right. This is totally unlike stock cars. It really is a battle between the drivers and the lanes that they choose. There's not a momentum going to one or the other.
Unbelievable stuff that we are seeing coming off of turn 4 once again. 5 laps to go now, and I'm seeing a few more pokes and prods out of Jorge Nieva. What about Bill Tyler? What is he doing back there? Is he waiting? Is he content for 4th to just collect points today? Tashima and Sheedy side by side once again, still for the lead down the backstretch.
If I'm Bill Tyler, I just got to be patient, because it looks like Nieva wants to make a move, and if Nieva makes a move, there's no place for Bill Tyler to make a move. He just has to be patient.
But he's got to worry about DeBello, because DeBello's now starting to attack on Bill and seeing if he could take that 4th place away. And yeah, he's going to get underneath him as well. Now it's starting to kick off. All kinds of drivers are getting in on this. That blue car at the very back of him, that's a lapped car. That is Kurt Clapper. So that's not for position. I fear we might see a little bit of contact before all is said and done. It's going to be 3 to go at the line. A big drift up off the corner from Sheedy. This is what Tashima needed.
This is Tashima's opportunity. He's clear of Sheedy. He needs to take the low line away. He stays to the middle of the racetrack. This is going to give Sheedy an opportunity to come back. But, Joe, we've got a lapped car.
He's going to be able to get down low, and there it is. Tashima, for the first time this race, is fully in the lead. But it looks like Wade's going to try to get back underneath him. He left the door open, and now he's going to be able to pull back alongside him. Tashima had it wrapped up, but he left himself vulnerable.
We gotta talk to Tashima about that one after the race, but side by side, it goes on 2 laps to go. Sheedy underneath. We got 3 lapped cars in the way.
Oh, goodness. They're trying to stay as low as they can. And Wade, they come together. And it's going to take out almost all 5 of them. Sheedy wrecks out. And now Bill Tyler is up to the front. His patience has paid off. He comes to the white flag, leading this race on his own.
My goodness. Will I get a replay? But Bill Tyler sees the white flag underneath Barney the flagman. He just has to put together one more lap here at the Charlotte Oval.
Oh, everybody else was vying side by side, chopping and diving. And you saw this man just sitting coolly watching it all unfold. And when it did erupt, he was there to pick up the pieces as Bill Tyler started from pole and finishes in first. That's not the whole story. He is going to win here today at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Congratulations to the 13 car, and I see that it looks like Glenn Becker is going to come home in the second place position.
Bill Tyler has had 14 podiums, make it 15 podiums now, but never a win. This is his first time here in the Grand Prix Legends Series. I gotta imagine he is pumping that fist in that sim rig right now, just beside himself with excitement as he brings it down to victory lane. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway in a race that built and built and built. It all came to a head with 2 laps to go as Bill Tyler ducked underneath the wrecking leaders and took a bit of a surprise win. Despite starting from pole, he did not lead, I don't think, any of the laps around here. I have to double check the stats on that. He was one of only 4 that finished on the lead lap. Glenn Becker, with his first ever podium in the Grand Prix Legend Series, took second place. Neil Kemp with his 6th podium finish here in 3rd. And Jack David Spickett, was the only other driver to finish on the lead lap. He started from 37th. Kurt Clapper was P5. He was actually around that wreck and had to duck underneath the wrecking cars himself just to finish that P5. Cathcart was 6th. Ackerman P7. And then Nieva was able to get the car rolling, but wound up 8th and a lap down. Isan Ginn finished P9, and Kevin DeBello rounds out your top 10.
There in Don Peak in 11th spot. Good points haul, up 19 positions for the number 26 car. Shinsuke Tashima there, unfortunately falling all the way back to 12th place. The first car 1 lap down. You see Wade Sheedy there, his partner in crime. They were both battling for the lead, but end up 12th and 13th. Mats Linden 14th, Robert Nelson inside the top 15, Michael Grissinger 16th, Terry Traumhauser, Bruce Snelson, Robert Plumley, and David Rossi in the 20th position.
Christian Eschner wound up 21st with Jeff Saunders 22nd and Wallbank in 23rd. Then it's Paul Wilson, P24, and Eng 25th. From there, you're getting into the cars that mostly retired. Robert Reynolds managed to see the checkered flag. Gwen Old got back out there, but very few others. Amy Charmois was able to finish it up along with Heiko Mueller, who was actually the lapped car that kicked off that huge incident, and Sebastian Tixier as well, managing to return to the track. Everybody else is a DNF for today. But taking his first win in the Grand Prix Legend Series, Bill Tyler joins us. Bill, that was an incredible finish. Was your hanging back and letting those 2 fight intentional in case something like that happened?
Yeah, that was my whole plan. Learning from earlier in the week that, playing it cool is usually the way to go because, like we saw, a lot of carnage can happen. So I was just hanging back and thought something might happen. In the end, I didn't really have pace for Wade. But yeah, I got lucky.
Now, on the oval side, we usually hear a little bit more about the setup making a bigger difference. Were you running a setup today that was your own custom, or did you borrow from someone else, or was it the iRacing setup?
Yeah, this one was sort of an evolution all week long. Last Sunday I started working on a set, and then over the course of the week I stole some ideas from Wade, and then stole some ideas from Mick, and ended up with a pretty good set overall. I do think they are really important here. So I spent a lot of time this week working on it.
Well, you already had 2 podiums for this win, so you've been there or thereabouts. Is the next goal to get your first victory on the roadside?
Yeah, I don't know if I really have the pace for that. I figured my first win, if I got one, would be on an oval. I'm generally better there, and then it's more of a roll of the dice sometimes. But yeah, we'll see if I can follow in like Togo and Seb's footsteps and get more than this one.
I'm sure you're on your way. Like I said, you've been up there. It's just maybe needs that last little push. Congratulations on the first GPL win. Who do you want to thank for it?
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to thank you guys for the broadcast. I'd like to thank Mick. He's kind of our spiritual cult leader in the series. And I'd like to thank Uwe Jacobson, who doesn't really race in the broadcast, but I've learned more from practicing and racing him during the week than I have from anyone else. So yeah, thanks, Uwe.
All right, so Bill Tyler, your winner, cult leader. That is an interesting way to describe Nick. As we now decide to wrap it up, as it doesn't look like anybody else has come to chat with us. Looks like everybody's still licking their wounds. So a big thanks to the Grand Prix Legends community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Thanks to the team today, Rob, Joey, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next race, it's back to the road courses. We're at Sonoma, Saturday, January 28th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here, because up next, we have the Camel GT Series, which kicks off at noon Eastern. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.